The director Quentin Tarantino says he's going to retire after making his next movie, his 10th feature film. Is this a good idea? Should he do it? Let me tell you what I think about this and why I think he's wrong about his view of movie history and older directors coming up next. Alright, so recently, and this is mid-2021, in which I'm making this video, on Bill Maher and on Joe Rogan's podcast, Quentin Tarantino has talked, at least briefly, about retiring, something he said he's going to do for a while, but he's told both Bill Maher and Joe Rogan a little bit more detail about why he's going to quit, why he plans to quit, after his next movie, his 10th feature film. Tarantino told them, or I think told Bill Maher at least, that in his view of movie history, directors should retire and do a mic drop in their last movie and leave before they get bad or they get worse in terms of the films that they make. He doesn't want to make any bad films in his older age, and he says that in movie history, normally older directors after, say, the age of 60 are pretty unsuccessful. We imagine that he'll make a movie, say, when he's 60, 61, 62, his last movie, so then he's going to retire, and after that he says directors don't do so well and definitely don't make their best work. Now, in terms of artistic creativity and looking at the history of art, Tarantino is dead right. Artists, novelists, poets, they don't tend to make their best work after the age of 60, and that's definitely true. There are anomalies, like Cervantes, for example, writing Don Quixote, but for the most part, aging doesn't help the creative process, and certainly doesn't help perhaps movie makers, movie directors, who are doing something very strenuous and difficult by being directors. It's intense to be a director, so it's not something that people want to do necessarily, may not have the ambition to do when they're older and they've had some success. Now, is Tarantino right that in movie history, directors haven't done their best work after the age of 60? He's in a class, and I'm not saying this, I don't have a judgment here myself personally in this video, but according to a whole lot of other people, mainstream critics, other directors, he's in a class of the top directors, movie directors ever. And so I looked around the internet. I looked on studiobinder.com at the 55 greatest directors ever, just looked at their list, and he's number 6 all time on their list. Now, can Tarantino make a good to great movie after the age of 60? Absolutely. And he knows it. Ridley Scott, Clint Eastwood, Steven Spielberg, Robert Zemeckis. That's just off the top of my head, directors who are 70 plus still working. But I want to look at this list of great directors on Studio Binder and see if Tarantino's in that class and he's comparing himself to this class, can he still make great movies after the age of 60? Given what's on this list, the answer is probably, and I'm tempted to say that he's overselling his decline. And I hate to say this and be a little bit paranoid, but maybe this is a marketing gimmick. Saying things that are hyperbolic are getting him attention these days. But take a look at this list of directors, and I think you'll see some anomalies. I think you'll see people doing decent to great work in their 60s to 70s. Working backwards down the list, I've done a video on Terry Gilliam, who's 80 years old at this point. He made one of my favorite movies from him just recently, The Man Who Killed Don Quixote. One of his best movies, I think maybe his best, could be The Zero Theorem. Arguably his best work was in the 1980s and 90s, but I don't think he's lost his vision or his creative spark at all. So he's done well in his 70s, in my opinion. Spike Lee is 65. He's still being nominated for Academy Awards, putting out movies that are watchable and entertaining to a number of people. Director number 38, Abbas Kiarostami, the great Iranian director. He was a writer-director. And of course, this may be what Tarantino is alluding to, that writing a screenplay and directing the screenplay, doing both at the same time, that might be where he declines in doing both roles. But Abbas Kiarostami did that. He made one of his last movies, Certified Copy, in his 70s. That movie won awards. It's beloved. It is a pretty darn good movie in his own style. And he's just proof that you can make a good movie or a great movie in your 70s. Terrence Malick is still going strong. His cinematography is as great as ever. His movie Hidden Life was acclaimed and really, really good. So and he's in his 70s, and he's been working harder than ever in the last 15 years. So he's produced a vision in his older age from his 50s to his 70s and really done a lot of great work, I think. The Coen brothers are on this list. They're in their mid-60s, and I think they're one of their best movies they just made 2 to 3 years ago. In their early 60s, The Ballad of Buster Scruggs. I don't think they're going to stop being good to great anytime soon, and as a team, they can help each other out. Now, there are a few directors on here who did lose their fastball, as it were, in their 60s. Billy Wilder is one, for example. I think Frank Capra did too. Arguably, Cassavetes may have. Tarkovsky died early. But there's a number of directors, and it is true, when they hit their 50s or 60s or 70s, health problems, lack of ambition, monetary success, lack of access to resources to make movies. That can be a problem as well. Lack of people in the movie industry to support a director. That may be a problem as well. And I think that all those factors play into what Tarantino is saying about directors not being as good in their older age. Just a few more to look at. Orson Welles could have done it. I think his health deteriorated because of his own problems. Ozu died at age 60, but he was making his best movies, in my opinion, in his mid to late 50s. And had really, the last 4 or 5 movies he made, I think, are his best movies. So I think he could have gone strong Ozu for 10 to 15 to 20 years. And by the way, that brings up Japanese directors. Miyazaki, still working and still as a producer doing well. And Akira Kurosawa, made Ran and Kagemusha I think in his 70s. And those are 2 of his best movies. In fact, Ran is still talked about quite often, still used in Shakespeare classes. So Kurosawa, if he's up there in the top of the studio binder list, along with Tarantino, is a counterexample of what Tarantino is talking about. And we could go on, Ingmar Bergman made Fanny and Alexander at age 65. Hitchcock made Psycho at age 60. The Birds. I think he did drop off there after that. Werner Herzog is still going strong, making some great documentaries. Martin Scorsese is still making quite good movies. So I think if Tarantino is in that class of directors, and again, I'm not making a judgment whether he is or not in the video. I'm going to just go along with what other people say for now. If he's in that class of directors, I think he's wrong to assume that his best work cannot be after the age of 60 to 62. Matter of fact, even if he's right, I still wish he wouldn't deprive the world, if he's a great director, of his vision and his artistic abilities. I think we need older people to make art to help us see what a older person's perspective is. If a person's 75 years old, let's say, why not make a movie to show us what you think the world looks like or ought to be like at age 75. I mean, I don't have a concept yet of what it's like to be old, that is 75 years old. But Terry Gilliam has showed me sort of, and Werner Herzog has showed me sort of. So why wouldn't Tarantino do that? And why not give your gift to the world and keep giving your gift if you were an artistic genius? So for all those reasons, I would discourage Tarantino from retiring. And my bet is the 10th movie won't be his last. Will he be able to really suppress his desire to make movies if he indeed loves it? Bergman said he was going to retire after Fanny and Alexander, and then he didn't. So I doubt Tarantino will either. Now, what do you think? Do you think Tarantino's full of it? Do you think he's a great director or not? Do you think he should hang it up and retire after his next movie? What is your opinion on all this? I'd love to know what you think he should do and why he should or shouldn't do it. But do you agree with me or not that older people should make movies? Let us know in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. Please subscribe to this channel for more great content. Thank you and have a great day.